Hey there, folks. My name's Ryan, and I wanted to make a quick video in response to a comment by Michael Schaefer on one of my videos. I responded to him in text, but I wanted to make a video about it because I think it's relevant to a lot that's going on. The video in question was "We're going to hell" or something like that. Um, Basically, about what I think is going to happen as this country continues to devolve and into civil unrest slash war, civil war, revolution, world war. I think all that's on the table. And he asked if the federal government could institute martial law. And the answer is complicated. I'm going to try to do the best I can here. And I do have experience with martial law from the WTO protests in 1999, the battle in Seattle, where 50,000 protesters shut down the WTO meeting. The president had to be flown out of his hotel by helicopter. And there was 2 days of riots until the National Guard showed up. And they pretty much snuffed it out, but everyone was exhausted at that point. And there had been 50,000 protesters. By the time the National Guard showed up, the protest was over, and there were hundreds of people still rioting. But it took, they had thousands of Leos, and they still brought in the National Guard to stop the rioting. Now, if the police and or National Guard are allowed to just shoot people for protesting or throwing a rock or breaking a window, spray painting a sign, it would take a lot less of them to control the situation, obviously. But that has its own bag of worms. Could you imagine if Trump sent the National Guard to Minneapolis and just told them to open fire and what that would cause? So if the cops can't just execute protesters on the street and the National Guard isn't just shooting people, there isn't much they could do outside of a small area. They can go to a city and shut it down pretty quickly if they want to. If there's protest in multiple cities, multiple states, spread out regionally, or heaven forbid nationwide, there isn't much the police and the National Guard could or would do unless they just want to go out and start executing people. And even then, they would have to deploy most of the United States military to cover the entire country. If things get real bad, you're going to see police just disappear. Like, they're going to go home to their families. They're going to try to defend their French store, maybe, or their neighborhood, but they're not going to be out trying to police 10,000 rioters. They're just not. And so that's sketchy. However, this also applies to the right as well. So let's say there's big nationwide riots. Again, because, the police were doing their job and a drug addict died because he took enough fentanyl to kill a bunch of horses. And the left decides that's worthy of burning their cities down. They could they can go out and they can raise hell, and there really isn't much the police can do besides move them around. The police can shoot tear gas and, all their non-lethals and push people down a street, but that's not going to stop a riot. It's just going to move it to a different location. But at the same time, what else could happen? Well, the right could say, you know what, I'm sick of this bleep bleep, and they get 20 of their buddies to go down in a team with AR-15s, and they could shoot 1,000 people and disappear, and the cops couldn't do anything about that either. Same thing goes where is if the right finally decides they're sick of Democrats putting murderers and child rapists and terrorists and just the scum of the earth leaving them on our streets, and they get tired of it and say, we're just going to start, for every black guy that tries to eat a 3-year-old on the street, our group's gonna shoot and kill 10 of them, and 10 groups like that show up in different parts of the country. The FBI could not hunt them all down, not if they use basic security procedures, and then it would spread. Then it's 100 groups going out and shooting 10 immigrants or 10 black people every time they attack a kid or murder a white girl minding her own business on a bus. There's nothing the feds could do about that. At that point, they would all, everybody'd be reeing their heads off. But at that point, they would probably just try to pick up deportations. They'd pick up deportations. They'd stop letting people who hurt children out of prison. This whole, black people are too stupid to suffer punishment for their crimes is not going to last long. People are going to start getting killed. And I think once that happens, it could go a couple of ways. Either the government says, even the leftists go, we've gone too far, and they start locking these guys back up into prison where they belong and possibly giving them the death penalty. Think if you assault a child and you're an adult, just give them the death penalty. The end. I don't care if it's SA or trying to bite their face or anything. Punching them in the face on the sidewalk, walking up and stabbing them like we've been seeing all this crazy stuff. People are not going to take this for long. And so when black people and, these thugs and then these, gangsters from South America, perverted Indian immigrants who shouldn't be here, when all those people start getting executed, I think that the government will step back. They might try to stop it, but there's nothing they could do. If there's 100 different groups going out and taking 10 dirtbags, scumbags off this planet every time a white girl or a child gets attacked, there's nothing the cops or the feds can do, except for start doing their jobs, hoping it will stop. But at the same time, then you're going to have immigrants and minorities going out marching and rioting and everything else. And then you're going to have more groups forming death squads. And so it could spiral out of control, and there wouldn't be much the government could do at that point. They can control limited areas under limited circumstances. They could do a little bit more if they're allowed to shoot people. Besides when they're attacked. But, somebody breaking a window, just boom, bullet to the head. If they can do that, they can control more. But they still couldn't control the whole country. And they sure as heck couldn't stop death squads from going out and exacting revenge for the genocide against white people that's going on in this country. And really, that's, the problem that the right faces right now is that nobody wants to do it because they know the first few people or first couple of groups who do it are going to get hunted, probably end up in prison or dead. And they're going to suffer a lot of consequences for it. But once it picks up steam and there's groups of people doing it every day or a couple times a week, 100 minorities or minorities, thugs and immigrants, getting blasted, once it picks up any kind of momentum, there's nothing they could do. So it goes for the right and the left, and then it's just a matter of how it plays out. But the feds are limited, and I saw it at the WTO protest in 1999. 50,000 peaceful protesters. They couldn't keep the roads open. They had to evacuate the president by helicopter out of his hotel. They had to shut down the World Trade Organization meeting with thousands and thousands of delegates from all over the world. It was complete chaos, and that was with 50,000 peaceful protesters. Then they started trying to, the cops were horrible, torturing people, attacking women and children, elderly people, just beating the crap out of elderly people, holding a sign. They go up with 6-foot batons and start bashing them. Saw some evil stuff at the WTO protest from the police. That forever changed my opinion of this country and the police. They'll get downright evil if you allow them. Demonic. They're no better than criminals, really. In fact, they are criminals. Most of them. But, yeah. I mean, the government's really limited once things kick off. It's the reality of things. We'll see where it goes from here, though. Thanks for the question, Michael. And I hope everybody's having a great day. Hit all the buttons if you would. I'd like, share, subscribe. Please comment down below. Tell me how you feel about this. Ask me questions, video suggestions. Call me names, whatever you want. I got links in the description. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a great night and God bless.